They are trickling in. Deidre is telling us some very good things, but she is currently on mute. So as soon as she hops on, she is going to give us all the goodness.
Sorry, I was just talking. But yeah, so excited to see so many people from North Carolina. That is where I'm from. So hey, North Carolina in the building.
Where are you, Deidre?
I am in Maryland, but I am originally from a little small town outside of Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just kicked the door in not too long ago. I haven't made quite enough noise yet, but I'm working on it.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys all for joining today. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining Black Girls in Cyber, transitioning to cybersecurity. And we are recording this. You should have got that pop up. So just wanted to let you know it in advance. All right. So here's an overview of what we're going to be discussing tonight. Black Girls in Cyber mission is to create industry awareness about careers in cyber, highlight various paths to entry, provide resources on how to get started. And what we're doing in Black Girls in Cyber is trying to get people into cyber without any previous knowledge or any prior knowledge. We just want to reduce those barriers for entrance for everybody in the cyberspace. So the agenda on tonight, again, I am Deidre Fayel. I am Black Girls in Cyber Director of Mentorship. So we're going to do an introduction of the Black Girls in Cyber founder, Talia Parker. We're going to do an overview of Black Girls in Cyber and how you guys can partner with us. Next will be our introduction of our panelist members, which is Tia Hopkins and Ken Underwood. So Tasha will be introducing the panelists. We would then have a panel roundtable discussion, and this is very informal, so you guys feel free to ask any questions that you would like. Just go ahead and put those in the chat. And then we're going to have another audience Q&A if you don't want to ask them while they're speaking. So thanks again for joining, and that's the agenda that we're going to be presenting. All right, so introducing Talia Parker. She unfortunately was not able to be here tonight, but Talia is a great friend of mine. She is amazing, you guys. She is from Florida. She went to the HBCU FAMU. And as you can see here, she has an exciting career at Google as a security engineer, privacy engineer there. And I encourage you all to just reach out to her. She is our founder, awesome friend, amazing. Talia is amazing. So unfortunately tonight, but yes, please talk to her. And that's just a little bit about our founder, Talia Parker. So next slide. So how we begin. So Talia received a lot of LinkedIn inquiries, a lot of emails about how to get into cyber and actually what does she do in her field. So she had an influx of people reaching out to her. And she was, during the pandemic, she decided to create Black Girls in Cyber. And so it was created in July of 2020. And like I said before, we are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to increase industry awareness and diversity for Black women who are interested in entry-level cyber careers, STEM careers, and privacy careers. And so it launched July of 2020, and we are doing amazing things with Black Girls in Cyber, and just excited for you guys to join us tonight. So how can you guys partner with us? So we currently have a cohort in progress that just started September of 2021, and our next one would start next year, 2022. What we're doing here is providing them training and exam vouchers. And I'm going to be getting these CompTIA Security Plus for our mentorship. So if you're interested in that, please apply at the link below. Also, if you're interested in becoming a speaker for one of our webinars, definitely apply as well. We're looking for anybody that has a career in cybersecurity, a career in product management, cloud computing, anything cybersecurity related or privacy related. If you're interested in speaking, definitely just reach out to us and let us know, and we can get you on one of the webinars here. And again, If you want to be a part of the cohort for our next cohort, definitely reach out and apply as well. So those are the ways that you can partner with us. And we also are accepting donations. So you can also go to that link as well to donate to Black Girls in Cyber if you agree with our mission. All right, so I'm gonna turn it over to Tasha to do an introduction of our panelist members.
Hello, hello, everyone. I know everyone on the line is just as excited as I am. Both of these speakers tonight are filled with, they have amazing backgrounds. First, we have Tia Hopkins. She is the founder of Empower Her Cybersecurity and an adjunct professor, and she's also the VP of Global Solutions Engineering. So she has been in this industry since 2000. Like some of you are wondering, the 2000s. So she has a wealth of knowledge to pass on to you. And she's one of Software Report's top 25 women leaders in cybersecurity and Cyber Defense Magazine's top 100 women in cybersecurity. So we are so excited to be hearing from Tia Hopkins tonight. And we also have the amazing Ken Underhill. He is the VP of Curriculum Development and Instruction at Rapid Accent, and he's the owner, host, and producer of Cyber Life television show. He's won multiple cybersecurity awards and entrepreneurial awards and has over 2 million people being educated by him around the world. So I want you to make sure that you find these people on LinkedIn, Facebook, and any of their rest of their social media and follow them, because the wealth of knowledge that you're going to get from them tonight, you want to be able to connect with them after this and take on, be able to engage with them. And I'm going to turn it back to Talia. Talia's not here. That lets you know she's in my heart. I'm going to turn it back to Deidre so she can continue the presentation.
All right, so we're gonna jump right in. The first question, and then from there, it's just gonna be rolling. I want you both to just introduce your current role and organization, and just tell us why you think cybersecurity is important in any industry. I'll start with Tia.
As I say, Tia, you want to go first?
Oh man, you're gonna do that to me? All right, no, I will. So, yeah, my current role is the VP of Cyber Risk Advisory and Solutions Architecture at Easton Tire. So Easton Tire is a managed detection and response organization. So that basically means that we are a security operations center as a service. So we monitor our customers' environments and hunt for and respond to threats on their behalf 24/7. I'm also an adjunct professor. I just signed a contract with LinkedIn Learning to develop courses for them. I work with Ken at Rapid Ascent, and I'm in conversations with SANS as well. So I just love cybersecurity in general. I mean, I come from a background of limited resources and a ton of grit, just figuring things out on my own, being resourceful, never giving up, not taking no for an answer. And it has served me well throughout my career. I have way more certifications than anyone should ever go after, way more degrees than anyone should ever go after, but I never want anyone to be able to say to me, you don't have this thing. So it's not a matter of imposter syndrome. Do I belong in this room? It's give me a reason why I don't belong, like seriously, because you're not going to be able to find one. So I'm really excited about the discussion today and happy to answer any questions that you guys, ladies may have. I'm an open book, nothing is taboo, so.
Nice. I mean, how do you follow that, right? So Ken Underhill, one of my current roles is VP of Curriculum and Development Instruction at Rapid Ascent. So Rapid Ascent is a training company. They do cybersecurity training both on the company side, so the workforce side, and also individuals trying to go through, not to sell the company or anything, but we focus on hands-on. We're all experienced people in the industry. I think the least experience has like a decade in the industry. Similar to Tia, I came from nothing, essentially. I came from no means. I didn't have a silver spoon, so I had to work for everything and have that grit. And if you're on this call right now and you've gone through things in your childhood, guess what? That makes you unstoppable. That makes you perfect for a career in cybersecurity, whichever route you go, because that's a key. It's going to be an endless learning process. As Tia mentioned, I don't have 900 certs like she does, but I have multiple college degrees and I have several certs that I don't list. And but the point there is it's a continuous thing, and similar to Tia, nothing's taboo. You can literally ask me anything and I'll give you an honest answer from at least my opinion. So happy to be here, happy to answer any questions. And like Tashia had mentioned, reach out to us on social media. I'm very active on LinkedIn, as is Tia. So reach out to us, connect with us, and we're happy to, mentor people where we can.
Awesome. Awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. So just going right into it, transitioning into cybersecurity. So as you guys transition into cybersecurity, just tell us about your stories. Like, where did you come from, your background? I know, Ken, you were in nursing. So transitioning from that nursing background into cyber, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I worked. I won't say when, because then Tia will actually know how old I am. But way back in the day, I worked in IT for a bit. Got out of that, went into healthcare. Was a special operations medic in the military. Went into nursing. Did pediatric nursing for a number of years. And really, what got me back into the tech space is I hated the IT team at the place I was working as a nurse, and so I said, I can do this better. You guys are just terrible. So I went back into healthcare IT, and naturally there was a progression there to network security, and then eventually into more cybersecurity roles. I ended up as a pen tester, which, for those that don't know, that's basically hacking things. So all the Hollywood movies and all that stuff, it's not like that, by the way, but that's kind of the correlation there. Some people call it ethical hacker. And, then I just kind of created content. Many years back, I created actually a course on health. It was a very basic course. I was actually going to give up on helping people because there was so much hate mail from that course. But I did get one person that said, "Thank you so much." Right? Your course helped me out, and I was able to be healthy enough to watch my daughter graduate her high school. And so from that point on, I moved more into the cyber education space. And like we talked about earlier, I educated a couple million people roughly a year. I think it's about 2.6 million now. But just really focused on giving back. So that's kind of the short version of my journey. It's a lot of people think that I like saw some, TV show or something on cyber or a movie, and I was like, yeah, no, I just hated other people that were doing a bad job, and I decided to move back into tech and do a better job.
Love it. Love it. Yep. And Tia, your backstory, your background, were you always in IT?
I mean, if you want to call it that. So I actually have always had kind of a knack for technology. I like technology. My mom bought me my first computer, and I took it apart when I was 12 years old. And I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. She walked into my bedroom, and there was just a pile of crap on my floor. And she was like, I worked very hard for that. That's a computer. You will put that back together right now, or you will lose your life. And so needless to say, I also built my first computer at the age of 12, because I needed to survive. So, that translated into, when I was looking at going to college and things like that, I didn't really have a reason for going to college other than it was what you were told you should do. You're smart, you're a great student, and you've got this thing for computers and all the things. You should go to college. So I did. And so I made the wrong choice, though. I went to school for computer engineering. I'm not an engineer. I'm a technologist, which I learned way down the line. So just a bit of foreshadowing. I'm a 4-time college dropout. I dropped out of college 4 times, but I now have a master's degree in information security, a bachelor's in IT, a second master's degree in cybersecurity, and currently pursuing my PhD in cybersecurity technology innovation management. So definitely a no quit attitude. But the difference was, when I went to college, it was back in the day, it was because someone told me that I needed to. I didn't understand my own why. And something I like to say is that it's hard enough to get up in the morning and just be a person and just do the things that you're passionate about. And so when we latch ourselves on the things that we're doing just because others tell us that we should do, it makes it hard for us to move, and like we're pulling ourselves, and that gets really difficult. So anyway, I actually started out in what I consider my latch into IT, installing DSL. I started working for the phone company, installing DSL services when that was considered high-speed internet and everyone was ditching their dial-up modem. So that transitioned into a full-on IT career. My background is really in systems and network administration. That transitioned into an IT director career. And I was like, I want to do something with my life. I need to specialize in something. I want to be great. And so I started to do some market research. And at the time, my options felt like they were DevOps, which I'm not. I'm not a programmer. Cloud, which was too new, and then cybersecurity. And the more I dug into it, the more I felt like I'm kind of doing a lot of this already. And it spoke to me, and the way my brain works is somebody built it, somebody can break it, and you got to think outside the box and be innovative and all those things. And so I chose it then, and we've been choosing each other ever since, and I'm really excited about it. So I could go on for an hour, but I'll stop there.
No, keep talking. This is awesome. 4-time dropout. Wow, that is an amazing story. Wow, wow, wow. That's amazing. Yeah. So just speaking on like self-reflection and the people that are trying to transition from a cybersecurity role, what are I guess some of the questions that you need to ask yourself? I know for instance, some may be like, why are you even making a change into cybersecurity? So what are some of the questions that you guys can think of, I guess, when someone to tell somebody that's transitioned to that to cybersecurity?
You want me to dive in first here?
Yeah, I'll go first. We're trading, right? I guess it's my turn to go first. But I think that the challenge that we have in this industry is, and I'm being extremely boisterous about this with the platform that I have, and I'm not making friends, and I don't care, because hashtag no new friends, I'm good. But the cybersecurity industry has become more marketing than actually problem solving, and that's an issue. And so there's a lot of folks coming into the cybersecurity industry because there's all this, oh, it's a booming industry and you should get into it and you can make a lot of money, you can do this and you can do that. But I mean, forgive my language, but that's bullshit. You can't come into cybersecurity and be a professional in 6 months. And the analogy that I like to use there is, it would be like someone showing up to my house, knocking on my door and saying, hey, I'm from the industry leading home security organization, and I'm here to secure all the things. I want to secure your house. But first, I need you to tell me, what's a house? And so if you're coming into cybersecurity and you're going to secure things, but you don't understand what those things are, you're going to have a really hard time in this industry. And so I really push on that, because the reality is, if you're in cybersecurity, you need to understand your why. Why are you here? What do you think the problem is that you're going to solve? What are you passionate about? What is moving you, motivating you, driving you? And if you don't have those answers for yourself, in addition to what is it about you, your unique skill set that's going to differentiate you from everyone else that's getting all the degrees and getting all the certifications that everyone else is telling them to get, you're really going to be hard pressed to differentiate yourself, establish a career, and move yourself forward. So I think understanding why you're here in the first place is number one. Asking the hard questions when you go out and ask someone, well, how can I break into cybersecurity? And then they send you down the path of getting all these certifications without even asking what you care about. Asking why. Ask the hard questions to make sure that you're going down a path that you're passionate about, that you care about. So when you wake up in the morning, you just do that thing. You're not dragging yourself to do it, because this industry is not easy by far. It's a lot of hard work. It changes every day. You can't be like, I got that certification, I got that degree, I'm done. You're never done, right? It's always a learning process. And the minute that you fall behind is the minute that you lose value. And so you have to love it. And so Ken.
So I think Tia made some really great points here, right? Figure out your why, what's actually driving you. It could be monetary, right? You could say, I'm tired of being broke. I want a tech job because that's going to make me some money. That's okay. But understand that not every job, just because it pays well, it's not a good job. The other thing I'll say on this is, when you're self-reflecting, look at some of the skills that you don't think are skills when you're doing this self-assessment. It could be things like me. I've always been good at explaining complicated topics, right? I can break down things where people understand them. For me, that's a natural thing. For some people, like cooking is a natural thing. I am absolutely terrible at cooking, by the way. So just figure out what are the things, and ask the people around you, family, friends, whatever, to say, what am I really good at? Because you may not understand the different skills that you have. And when we're also focused on skills that are transferable, which is really a big question I get a lot, people coming out of the military, people working other jobs, looking at even IT careers and cyber careers, are saying, well, I don't have any skills that transfer. Yes, you do. Do you communicate with customers? Well, great. You can talk to executives. You can talk to managers. You can talk to your teammates. That's teamwork, right? That's communication skills. There's customer service skills. I mean, you can, one gentleman was stocking shelves at a grocery store. Guess what? You have to deal with your boss. So you obviously can communicate. You can follow a process, because I've stocked shelves before. I'm terrible at that too. So I find things I'm good at, right? So some people can follow a process very well. you can follow process. You can do the same thing in incident response, right? There's things called playbooks where when something happens, you follow those playbooks that someone more senior than you has developed. So these little skills like this that we take for granted, that we don't think about, these are all transferable skills. So when you're thinking about like resume writing, as an example, I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but when you think about writing a resume, what are those skills that are transferable to essentially any industry? It doesn't have to be cyber, it doesn't have to be IT, it could be you want to be an attorney. Guess what? As an attorney, you have to communicate, right? So think about those skills when you're self-reflecting. And also to Tia's point of figuring out your why, the thing about social media is it's a blessing and a curse, right? You're going to deal with people. If you don't know your why, you're going to deal with people say, oh, try forensics. Well, of course, because they work in forensics. You're going to deal with people that maybe come from a lot of pen testing like I did and say, oh yeah, go try pen testing, or go try risk, or go try cloud security. And then you're going to, just like Tia mentioned, rack up 500 certs in all these areas. And when you send your resume to me as a hiring manager, I'm going to say, well, why'd you collect all these certs and not focus on one thing, right? So going back to the why, that helps you get that clarity of one thing. So focus on one thing, figure out your why. What do I want to do? And the other thing here, I know it's not part of self-reflection, so forgive me, Deidre and Tashia, but when you're deciding what career path in cyber you want to go down, start free, then worry about doing paid things, right? Start with free content, free YouTube videos, free courses, etc. Expose yourself to different areas and say, well, I like this, I don't really like this. And then from there, literally write down, unless you really like taking notes on your computer or whatever, your phone, but literally write down a couple of different careers that interest you, and then flip a coin, right? Flip a coin to narrow down and just pick one and focus on connecting with people in that career and getting their advice on how to get into that career and go from there. If you don't do it that way, if you don't narrow it down, you're going to listen to everyone on social media. You're going to get 1,000 certs. You're going to get 1,000 college degrees. And this time next year, you're still unemployed, right? You're not getting a cyber job because you've gone all these different ways. So start with that clarity, start with the why, like Tia mentioned, and do that self-reflection and really think through the different skills that might be transferable. And you really should be good. Again, all of us on this call are happy to mentor you and guide you in the process. But at the end of the day, you have to sit down and decide what works best for you.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on something that Ken said, if that's okay. I hope I don't get in trouble here, but like, there's a lot of, let's just be honest, there's a lot of bad advice in the cybersecurity industry because you have individuals looking to get into the industry and just looking for guidance from someone that they think has made it based on a LinkedIn profile, right? But my journey won't necessarily lead to your desired outcome. And you have to keep that in mind because all I can tell you as a mentor is what worked for me and what I've seen and where I failed and where I succeeded, but we're two totally different people, right? So it's not about talking to me, right, for example, and then me just paving the way for you. It's about you taking nuggets from my journey that apply to the journey that you want to go on yourself. There's no carbon copy. There's no, I'm going to do exactly what that person did because we all have different backgrounds. We all have different desires. And the point that I want to make here is just to not take things just for I have to do this thing and I have to do it this way. It's feedback. It's not necessarily a set in stone path. And anytime anyone asks me a question, I'm always going to answer with a question because I feel like I cannot give you meaningful feedback or answers unless I understand who you are, where you're coming from, and what your desired outcomes are. But you have a lot of individuals out there that say, oh, go get this cert, go get this degree, go do this thing, go do that thing. And they don't even know your last name. They don't even know what experience you have. And then they're sending you down this very expensive path, both financially, time-wise, resource-wise, and it's not going to land you where you want to be. So take everything with a grain of salt, no matter how successful the person is that you're talking to, because at the end of the day, what they're giving you is based on their own implicit biases, their own experiences, and it's also diluted by whatever opportunities they had. Maybe they had a sponsor, maybe they had a mentor, and those are things that you might not have. So your journey might be a little harder or a little easier than the one that they're laying in front of you.
So good, so good. You guys are amazing. We have a question in the chat. What is the recommendation for people pivoting to cyber without a college degree?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. So you absolutely do not need any college degree to get into cyber. I know a lot of people, I in fact know people in executive roles that have no college degrees. You also don't need certifications. And that's a misconception on social media a lot, is that you need degrees, you need certs. That stuff's great. It's great to have the knowledge. The way I suggest people do it, if college is not an economic thing, I mean, for me, it wasn't growing up. I only had college money because I went in the military and put in the sweat equity to get the money for college. Otherwise, I wouldn't have college degrees. So the way I recommend it is, if you're looking at like degrees or certs, what are the things you're actually learning in those, right? Like look at a college degree program, they'll tell you the topic area, and then go find free resources on that, right? It'll take a little bit of time sometimes to find the different resources, but just do it that way. At the end of the day, it's more about the skills, right? Can you actually do the job? Can you come in and do certain things on the job? And a lot of places to look for that are like job descriptions, or just talking to hiring managers at different companies. So college degree not required. If there's ways you can work for college, and scholarships and all that stuff. But there's the lowest cost schools too, like Western Governors, where I went, where you can, for the price of like 10 degrees, you can get 1 degree at some equivalent school. So there's ways around that, right? But if it's not an economical thing for you, just know you don't need that. You don't need that whatsoever to get into this industry. You also don't need certifications. Can they help in some instances? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's really about personal branding, building your skill set, and networking with the right people.
I agree 1000%. And you have to think about it, right? That the name of the game in this industry is differentiation. So think about it. I'm a hiring manager. And if I put 50 people in a room and all 50 of those people have a Security Plus, a CISSP, a CISM, and that's all I've got to go on, or maybe they have a master's degree in cybersecurity, how do I know who to hire? How do I know who's a good test taker versus who can actually drive value in my business? And what are the things that you need to do to be able to articulate to me as a hiring manager that you're going to be able to do the things that I need you to do? It is not, when you're in an interview, it's not about being able to answer all the questions with the right answer. When I interview individuals, I hate to put it this way, but as an executive, all I care about is, are you a person? Like, would I want to have a drink with you after work? Because if not, I'm not going to want to have a one-on-one with you, right, during the workday. And then the other thing is, can you get the job done? And for me, that is beyond the LMNOP alphabet soup behind your name. And I feel like I have a lot of credibility saying that as someone that's just got way more stuff than anyone would ever need to be successful in this industry. So an example of that I have for myself is when I first said, okay, I'm going to break into cybersecurity, I started looking at job descriptions as the answer to the test. These organizations are telling me the tools, the methodology, the concepts that they want me to understand. So I'm going to go off and I'm going to spin up these tools and I'm going to play with them and I'm going to be able to talk about them in an interview. And so I had an interview with a power company in New York, and it was a panel interview with like 7 people. I was late for the interview. Number one, I was freaking out. I got there, I was sweating. It was bad traffic. It was horrible. And it was 7 people that had been doing cybersecurity for years. And I had maybe been focused on it for like a little bit, just kind of doing a little bit here and there, spinning up some free tools. But I was able to hang with them in that conversation and talk about the things that I was doing with those tools, how those things applied to the problems that they needed to solve for their business. And additionally, I was able to get them to think about things that they hadn't already thought about, skill sets that they hadn't actually considered. And they went very far for me. I was probably by far not the most qualified individual in terms of cybersecurity skill set, but the value that I brought actually led them to offering me the job. Now, I didn't accept it, but I was surprised that I got a job offer after being late for this interview and probably not, being the most technically skilled individual in cybersecurity. So it is about driving value in organizations, and it's hard to bring value or demonstrate value when you look exactly the same as all your peers on paper. So that's the name of the game. How can I be different? Make them remember your name when you go into these interviews. Like the certifications, degrees, those are check boxes, right? Those will get you through the filters, but you can also put those things on your resume as in progress, and they're on your resume and they'll still get you through a filter. You got to crush that interview, right? So what is it that you're doing in your free time, in your spare time? What is the research you're doing? Are you keeping up with industry trends? Have you researched this company that you're talking to? Those are the things that most technically minded individuals aren't thinking about.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Tia's saying, the other thing I'll mention here is, especially at the executive level, when I look at someone and assess a candidate, I'm not looking at what you can do next week necessarily. I really am not. I'm not looking at what you can, the value you can even do in the first year. Usually, there'll be some value with if we give you the right training and stuff. What I'm looking for is in the long term, right? How can you as an individual grow within this company, deliver value as long as we get you the resources and training and things, and support that you need, as well as how can you as an individual, how can we benefit you, right? How can we help your career? Maybe you're a phenomenal candidate, but it's not the right fit at this company because we'd be detrimental to your career, right? So when you're out there applying for jobs and you go through interviews and you get rejected, it's not always the fact that you sucked in the interview. It also could be that person recognizes your talent and knows that that's not the right fit for you at that organization. There are some bad companies out there. I've dodged a lot of bullets. Fortunately, I've missed on some. I've been through some things, but just understand that it's not. We're always at a certain level. Good leaders are always looking for the long term, right, of the organization, especially executive level. We always. I mean, I can't speak for Tia, but I'm always looking 5, 10, 20 years out at the executive level of how can what I'm making a decision on today impact the organization and benefit people as well as the company in the long term there. So, find your uniqueness, as Tia mentioned, put in some of the work. You'd be surprised as what she mentioned about researching companies, how many people don't do that. If you can walk in and understand what the company's trying to do. And I would also put a couple more things out there. Number one, when you do the research, figure out how your role could contribute to maybe some of the projects that the company's putting on their blog or social media that they're working on right now. Say, okay, well, and even if you don't know, go to the interview and ask the question. Say, well, how does this role fit into what I'm reading on this blog about this or this that you're working on? And let that person answer the question. They may say, I don't know. And then they may go to the hiring manager and say, well, they asked me this question. I didn't know the answer to it. The hiring manager says, well, call Tia. That's a great question. We need her in here to think like that. We need people to think like that. The other thing I'll say is for any job, not just cyber, make your boss's life easier. If you will rarely be laid off, you will rarely get, I've never been fired. I've tried, trust me, I've tried many times, but I've never been fired in my life because I always have gone in and saying, how can I make the boss's life easier? If you can do that, you'll work your way up in the company a lot faster. And even if they don't work you up in the company, go to another company, right? They'll appreciate that value that you bring. If you become an employee that causes chaos in your boss's life, where every time I turn around, I can't trust you with a project, I have to go in and I have to do something with that. Guess what? When it's time to cut budget, guess who's going? It's going to be you. So always deliver that value, just piggybacking off what Tia said, and also focus on how can you deliver the value to not just your boss, but also their boss's boss, right? Because I've accelerated in a lot of places because I also made it easier for the next level up. They recognize that. So even if that first line or middle manager didn't recognize that, the executive did. And guess what? They create positions for you when you do things like that. So just some additional advice there to think about.
So good. So good. One other question, Ken, when you were talking about start free, a question came in. How do you know which free resources to do? There are so many.
Yeah. So, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So it could be overwhelming at times, especially with the free resources. And the other thing with free resources is quality a lot of times. Sometimes the quality is bad. And sometimes when you're starting out, you have no idea what's good or bad. I will say that, start places like YouTube, right? Worst case scenario, a YouTube video might mention a free course or something. Udemy is another good free resource out there. Has a lot of good stuff. Tia mentioned SANS earlier. SANS has some free training out there. There's just so much content out there. I really suggest that you start with your why. You start with a self-reflection. You maybe look at a few YouTube videos on different cyber careers. CyberSN, and I'll post that in the chat in a second. CyberSN has a website. They're a recruiting place, but they've curated basically a listing of different cyber job roles, along with different job titles. You might see it as on postings, along with a little description of the career, salary, things like that, right? Like cloud security engineer, pen tester, whatever. So I recommend you go to their site and kind of start there even after you do the why self-reflection, and then go to their website and look at some of the different roles and just see what interests you. right? I mean, the way I tell people is like, okay, if you like to watch crime shows, maybe a career in like SOC analyst or incident response or forensics might be good for you, or it might be terrible for you, but at least, try out some free courses on it, see if you like it. If you like to break things like Tia, right? It could be a path of pen testing, right? You like to break into things and figure things out or whatever. It could be that you like to follow processes and you love paperwork. And in that case, guess what? Risk might be your area. So there's a lot of different areas, right? And you just have to kind of see. So there's really no right answer to, hey, there's a lot of free content. Where do I start? It's more of start with a why, start with a self-reflection, and then go to a site like CyberSN where you can kind of see some descriptions on different job roles and get a feel for them. And then go find free content on those things. Free or low cost. Sometimes free, again, is kind of junky. So you may look at low cost things like Udemy is like $10 or $12 or 15, whatever, for a course on there if you catch the specials, which they do. By the way, the trick with Udemy, hopefully they're not watching this. The trick with Udemy is sign up for an account there for free. If you see a course that you have to pay for and you're like, well, that's a massive price, just wish list it and then wait till Monday. Usually on Mondays, they run a special. So you can get it for like 10 or 15 bucks. So FYI, if you're looking for low cost training, that's a place. I don't have affiliation with Udemy. It's just, I use it for some things when I was starting out. So it's a source. But again, you have to start with your why, right? Me telling you, go check out some pen testing courses on Udemy, that's not going to be good for you, right? Because you may be interested in something else. So just start with that, kind of go down off that. And I mean, that's the path that I would, if I was starting over today, then I knew about things like CyberSN, I would start with my why. I would start with a self-reflection on what are my skills and what kind of interests me. I would go to CyberSN and try to find some jobs that are there that maybe interest me based off my personal interest. And then from there, I would start with free content and see if I even like this thing. I'll just tell you right now, when I moved into pen testing, I thought it was so exciting, like Hollywood movies. And then I realized I was doing a lot of things like code review, which like Tia, I'm not a coder. I hate it. I don't like it. I can script, but I don't like it, right? It's not a passion of mine. I'm not interested in it. So you have to try some things out and just see what kind of sticks. And the other thing to keep in mind here, just real quick, is you don't have to stay in a certain role, right? If you work as a year in a SOC analyst and you're like, I don't want to ever see another log in my life. Cool. Switch to risk, right? Switch to something else. That's totally cool. You can always transition. I mean, Tia's worked a number of roles. I've worked a number of roles. You can always change your career because you never know, the new version of yourself might be this version that you absolutely love. And you'll never get there if you just stay in one spot and focus on that. So just some other additional advice that I've learned through a lot of life lessons.
Awesome. Love it. So moving into the challenges and the barriers, moving into cybersecurity. So can you talk about how the barriers to even try to get into cyber? Like, can you even afford to get into cyber? Like, keeping up with the certs or even getting a degree is expensive. So can you talk about some of the challenges that
yeah, what do you mean? There's no challenges or barriers. What are you talking about? Nobody has an issue. No, typically so there's a disconnect, right? There's a disconnect between what people are being told on social media or, Tia mentioned it earlier around the marketing, right? It's kind of become a marketing industry. So you're seeing all this stuff with the messaging being like, oh, just take this boot camp or go to college, get a master's in cybersecurity, get, Sec Plus is a decent cert to get started now, but get your Sec Plus or get this cert or get that cert. And the real barrier here is that everyone's doing that, right? So going back to what Tia mentioned earlier, what's your uniqueness? And there's a lot of barriers in place. Number one being that the old way of the 1990s way of applying to jobs, which is you apply to a job online, you send your resume, you wait weeks to hear back, you hope for the best, you hear nothing, or you hear a no or whatever. That's the old way. If you're doing it that way, good luck. I wish you the best. It's going to take you, one person I spoke to, it took them 3 years to get their first entry level job. So if you want to wait 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, cool, do it that way. The better way is personal branding, which I mentioned earlier, as well as proper networking. So what does that even mean, right? And I know I'm diving ahead here, and then I'll let Tia circle back to challenges and barriers. There's a lot of challenges and barriers, by the way. Could be, let's just touch on them. Could be your race, right? If you got a certain name, or you're from a certain demographic or ethnic background or sexuality or sexual preference, or any number of things that technically are illegal for employers to discriminate against, guess what? The ATS system, which is an applicant tracking system, the AI software, it's biased. I'm sorry, it's biased. I've sent resumes through with a lot of different names on them to test things out at a lot of companies that claim that our thing's not biased. Guess what? Certain names don't get through, certain names do. So just understand that if you apply the traditional route, you're extremely unlikely to get the job that you want. Whether that's good or bad. It could be a bad company, it could be a good company, whatever. The other thing there is economic challenges. T and I both mentioned we came from very limited means. And, so the question earlier on college degrees, right? A lot of people can't afford to go to college. They can't afford certs. I talked to a guy, I think it was late last week, that can't even afford a couple $100s for a cert voucher, right? So I found someone to sponsor that, for him. But some people can't afford that to get the cert. So what can you do, right? We talk about what, some of these challenges and stuff. What can you do? Well, number one, the personal branding. What do I mean by that? Once you decide what you want to do, you want to do cloud, you want to forensics, SOC, incident response, you want to be a pen tester, risk, whatever. Once you decide on kind of that one major thing you want to do, then all of your social media posting should be about you doing that thing, right? As you're learning, not when you have 10 certs and degrees and 20 years experience, but as you're learning the process, because there's a concept, and I forget where I read it a long time ago, but basically you're one chapter ahead of somebody else in the book, essentially, right? The book of life. So as you learn something, you're one chapter ahead of someone else that right now doesn't know that thing. And the interesting thing I realized is when I started out teaching, I realized that some people can only learn from me. And if I don't speak up, if I don't teach them, they can't learn from anyone. They'll never learn the thing, right? I deal with a lot of disabled people that can only learn from me because I explain it a way that they kind of mesh with and can learn from. You have that same gift within you, and you have to identify, as you're learning, essentially, right? And you have to just post that out there, just share it. On LinkedIn is my preference. I would recommend that the place because that's where people do more business. Twitter has a big cybersecurity presence, but I recommend LinkedIn. That's where you're going to get more traction on it. And with that personal branding aspect, be prepared that you're not going to get anyone liking your post for probably at least 3 to 6 months or a year. I mean, when I started on LinkedIn, nobody liked my stuff. And if I took that personal, Tia was like the only person. She's like, I got you, Ken. But everyone else was like, forget you, you're nobody. But understand it might take some time, but people are always watching you, even if they don't like your stuff. And if you constantly say like, for example, let's say I want to be a cybersecurity analyst. So as I'm going through that and I'm learning about SIM tools and things, I'm posting about that. I'm showing screen shares, or I'm just putting out, written posts on it, what I'm learning to kind of share with the industry and share with people and help people. I'm going to probably attract the attention of people that know that I want a analyst job, and they're going to reach out to me via DM and say, hey, we just literally got out of a meeting. And this has happened to many people I've mentored. We literally just got out of a meeting at my company. I didn't know if you were still looking for a job, but we just decided to create this new role. It's not posted yet. If you want, if you're interested in it, I can set up a call with you and the hiring manager. We don't even have a budget for it. So let me know what you want to make, and then you need to do some quick research real quick and figure out the rate so you can put a good number out there. But that's literally how jobs are gotten in this industry. I would say less than 1% of jobs are ever gotten from actually applying to a job. Most of them are that personal branding and then the networking portion of that. So I've talked a while. I'm going to let Tia jump in. She's itching to jump in with her thoughts. So I'm going to let her take over.
I mean, you make a lot of good points. So I'm going to be like, I don't know if it's devil's advocate or just the devil, but I'm going to do it. The biggest barrier to, I think, entering into the cybersecurity industry is the brokenness of the industry itself. And unless you're in it, and unless you've been in it for a while, it's hard to realize that a lot of organizations don't even know what the hell they're looking for, right? You see these job postings out there that want you to have 10 years experience in the technology that was just launched 2 years ago, or they want you to have the CISSP for an entry-level role when you need 5 years experience to even be endorsed for that certification. So the industry is incredibly broken. It is broken in the fact that education is wrong. And that's why I teach. I have two, information security, cybersecurity, master's degrees, didn't learn a thing. And I teach because academia is geared toward teaching individuals how to talk about cybersecurity, but can you translate that into business value? And that's what's missing. That's what I love about what Ken is doing with Rapid Ascent, because it's all about driving business value, solving problems. It's less about reading a book, understanding the terminology, being able to do the calculations around risk assessment and things like that, and solving problems for businesses. And the challenge is that we've been doing it that way for so long, and everybody's doing everything the way we've been doing it for so long that no one knows what we need to be looking for. And I say this to folks all the time. You're going to go get this degree that some PhD put together based on research that they did that's 4 years old in an industry that's changing every day. So you're going to go learn from a PhD that's actually pulling together content from a practitioner that's up to date every day. You're going to start this program years behind, and you're going to finish it even further behind. And the industry's broken in that way because we are trying to model the way we do things based on something else. And nothing in this world today is relevant to helping us move the needle in the cybersecurity industry. We're just not doing it the right way. We're relying on each other. What are my peers doing? What is everyone else doing? Oh, I'll just let the HR team put this job description together, and we'll put it out there, and we'll see what we get. And so that leads me to the point that interviews, just to kind of go back a little bit, interviews are a two-way street. I find that the mistake a lot of individuals make is going into an interview feeling like they have to impress the company that they're talking to. That's not what it's about. It's about finding fit, right? So the company's making sure you're a fit for them, but you should also be making sure they're a fit for you. You should be asking them cultural questions, financial questions. The role that you're signing up for, is that new? Is it sustainable? Is it something that's going to be relevant in the market 3 years from now? Or am I going to be looking for something else? Don't feel like because you're breaking in, because you haven't been there yet, means that you're somehow less than. Actually, you might be more than, because you're probably talking to someone that's got tunnel vision, not being innovative, not thinking outside the box, when it's literally you and the way you think and the way your mind processes information that can take this company to the next level. So I think the biggest barrier to interest to the cybersecurity industry and breaking in and understanding what you need to do is that the industry itself doesn't understand what it needs. And that's why I'm building the LinkedIn course that I am. It's not a technical course at all. It's all around hiring managers and security leaders needing to, and I'm not even sure if I should be talking about this, but anyway, well, that's fine. It's about industry leaders needing to have a pipeline mentality, right? You got all these individuals over here that are saying, I'm trying to break into cybersecurity and I can't find a job. And then you got this pool of hiring managers over here saying, we can't find cybersecurity talent. I'm sorry, what? Like, what's going on? The problem is hiring managers that you're lazy. You want someone with a cert. You want someone that says they have 5 to 10 years experience, because that means you don't actually have to validate what it is that they know. You can assume they know enough to keep you afloat. You don't have to write a real job description. So the pipeline mentality is break off the mundane, boring task that's causing your mid-level talent to leave because they're bored and they want to go do something else. Carve that out, build it into an entry-level role. So now you can fish in this huge pond of individuals that are trying to get into the industry, that are trying to help us with our national security, that are trying to help us with our personal security, and build them up to those mid-level roles that you're having so much trouble seeking, hiring, and retaining talent in those roles today. And so there, I mean, I could talk about this forever. There's so much broken about this industry skill set, too much reliance on certifications. You think about somebody that's been in cybersecurity for 10 years doing the same thing. They could be doing this for 10 years, but the industry has done this in 10 years, but they got 10 years. You could read a book in 6 weeks and be more skilled at what the industry actually needs today than someone that's been doing the same thing for 10 years. So don't sell yourself short. There's a ton of value that you can bring to this industry. It's about confidence. One of my favorite quotes, and really the foundation that I built my nonprofit on, is that confidence has no competition. And often confidence is mistaken for competence. And there's a lot of freaking people out here that are confident that don't know what the hell they're talking about. And those of us that are competent need to have the confidence to articulate that we know what needs to be done in order to keep these businesses secure. And we just need to do more of that and be confident in that and get these businesses thinking about the right things.
So I real quick, I just want to say Tia is going to run for president in 2024, so I'll be sure to vote for her. A couple of things.
Yes.
So one, I want to share a story real quick. It's actually from nursing, but because you mentioned the experience thing, Tia, I worked with pediatrics, obviously, as I mentioned before, and I work with very critical kids. And so this particular case, I was working in a home, and when I arrived, the ventilator was going off, kids like looking purple. And this nurse, that had experience, I mean, I think this person had 20 years experience, was just patting the baby like, oh, everything's fine. They're just a little fussy. I'm like, they have no airway. Like, come on, so I grabbed the baby, I put a new trach in, and use the ambu bag and basically, get the kid air, oxygen. But that's the problem, right? Including in this industry is if there's a focus on experience, just because someone has experience, like I can literally push the same button for 50 years. That doesn't mean that I know how to fix the machine, right? So experience doesn't matter to people that know, but to Tia's point, a lot of hiring managers are just like, all right, you got 5 years, you got the CISFC, okay, you're good enough for an entry level role. The other thing I want to mention, just around understanding sort of how, for those on here that don't know about business, just understanding how most businesses operate is for whatever salary you're getting, generally speaking, the business is going to make at least 10x off you in that 12-month period, right? Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to actually ask for what you're worth. One thing I see, and I especially see this with minority women that are on the call, I especially see this with minority women, is you don't know how to ask for what you're worth. And then you find out that like your male counterparts that are pasty white guys like me are making 40, 50% more than you because you've never been taught to ask for what you're worth. So when you go to these jobs and you see if they tell you a salary range of X, whatever, know that, okay, well, they're going to make X. So let's just use 100 grand as an example. If you make 100 grand a year, they're expecting they can make at least $1 million off whatever contributions you make in that 12-month period, right? So if you feel that you can come in and deliver more value than that, then ask for more money. If you say, well, I can give you 2 million of value, well, then ask for 200 grand a year. Why are you selling your worst case scenario? They say no. You go someplace else, or they can't do it in budget. So they say, well, what if we give you some extra vacation time, Tia? What if we give you some, additional stock options or something? What if we give you, whatever, I don't know, a Christmas bonus or whatever. But there's a lot of ways that the right companies will work with you to get to that number. And the other thing that does is that they know that you cost a certain amount, right? You're not selling yourself short. Never degrade your value for a company, because at the end of the day, they're always going to make money off you. I run multiple companies outside of my corporate thing I do. They're always going to make more money off you than you'll ever be getting paid for some reasons, right? Obviously, it costs for employees, insurance, all these things, that taxes, all these things a business has to pay. But at the end of the day, you need to understand your value. And the way you can do that, if you don't know what to ask for, is look at the role, look at some different areas across the country for that role, find some salary ranges. I mean, CyberSN, again, is a good site to kind of get some ballpark figures. Any number that you have in your head going, this is kind of general advice I give everyone. Any number that you have going into an interview in your head, throw 40% on top of that. And that's the number you ask for. And then let them negotiate with you back down. You'll find that really bad employers won't pay you a lot. And so you'll automatically be taken out of the running for the job. That's cool. Go someplace else that's going to value you, right? And pay you what you're worth. So I just want to share that and throw that out there before I forget, because Tia, you made that pop in my head real quick. So always ask for what you're worth. Any number that you have, no matter where you go, any number in your head you have going into an interview, throw 40% on top of that, be in the parking lot in your car, calculate that real quick, say, all right, this is what I'm going to ask for now, and ask for it and see what happens. You'll be surprised how many times like they're like, oh, that's all you want? We're going to give you a little more than that, and then you just got a huge raise, right? That's awesome. So that's my last bit of advice on this challenge stuff.
Ken, I want to piggyback. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tia.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tia. I want to hear you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to piggyback on that and say, like, we literally always think we're worth less than we are. So Ken makes a fantastic point. And the reality is, like, I'm a hiring manager. I have a budget. I have a head count. I have a range. And it is my responsibility to the business to get as much as I can for as little as possible. It's not a game. It's not trying to shortchange. It's none of that. But the responsibility of the candidate is to make me think twice about that. So if my budget is 120 to 160K, and I'm trying to get you in at 120K, I need you to convince me that I need to level up, right? And every call is a sales call. I don't care if you're in an interview, if you're talking to a university, if you're talking to the power company. Everyone in this world is trying to sell you something. I'm trying to sell you something right now. I'm trying to sell you the keys to being a successful cybersecurity professional. So it's all about getting whoever you're talking to pick up what you're putting down. And that is a sales call at the end of the day. It's all marketing, all of it. So sell yourself. And as women of color, we suck at that. I've been at this for years. I'm in a sales role. I lead a technical sales team, and I'm horrible at it. The thing I'm most horrible at is talking about myself. But we have to do those things. And then the last thing I wanted to add here was, do not feel like you have to fit into some mold in this industry, something that has been laid out for you. I like post little pro tips on LinkedIn all the time. And one of the ones that I posted was, if you can't find a lane that feels good to you, create your own. My last 3 roles were, I think we should do this thing. We have this gap. I can fill this gap and I'll fill it, but here's what I want my title to be. And the company said, okay. Companies want to drive value. Companies want to make money. And to Ken's earlier point, you want to make your boss's life and your boss's life easier. At the end of the day, everyone's there to solve problems. And if you have the ability to solve problems and you're easy to work with and you can communicate and you can articulate, those are invaluable skills. So don't discount those because you don't have the certification or because you don't have the degree. Know who you are, know where you're strong at, and sell the hell out of that. Fake it till you make it, right? While you build up all the other stuff.
So good. While we're talking about salary, we did get a question, interview question. So the question is, would anyone have an example of a cultural question?
You mean like a cultural question in an interview? Is that the?
Yeah. Would anyone have an example of a cultural question?
Like a cultural fit. So Tia was speaking a lot earlier about, like, when you're in the interview, you want to make sure that you fit in. What are some of the type of questions that they should be asking to make sure that they fit in culturally?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask, about things like how does the team operate? Can I meet the team members? For me, typically, the advice I give is usually the interview person, like the interviewer. If they seem stressed out, if they seem flustered, yes, it could be possibly a personal issue, but usually it's because they're so busy, and that's probably not a good fit for most people at that company, because you're going to be working like endlessly crazy. Now, if maybe that's your thing, right? Maybe you want to work at some, FANG company and spend the next several years of your life with no life and that sort of stuff. That's cool. If that's your thing. If you've got a family and kids and stuff, maybe that's not a good fit, because you're going to spend all your time working, essentially, right? That's why they have gyms and all those things on site, because they want you there all the time. So, as far as me, and I know Tia's probably got specific questions she can share, but as far as my thoughts on it, and from my experience, if the interviewer themselves seems flustered or seems to have an attitude, like any number of things that you don't vibe with, it's probably an indication you shouldn't be at that organization. Because generally speaking, organizations, unless they're really terrible or short staffed, but usually they'll try to put their best person forward for these types of roles. So they try to like hook people in, like, oh, it's a great place to work. So if you're at a spot, especially if the interviewer is like, oh, it's a terrible place, you should probably run in that instance. So Tia, you want to chime in with any specific questions you can think of? But yeah, I usually just tell people, the person interviewing you, if it's not vibing, it's probably not going to be a good fit for you, usually.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, there's all the feels, right? And to your point, they are going to put the best person forward, because back to my earlier point, every call is a sales call. Interviews are a two-way street. It is a sales call, right? It's your responsibility to differentiate yourself and convince this employer that they need you over everyone else that they're talking to. But that employer is a representation of that company, right? Like, you could leave that interview and go on Glassdoor and totally just, I mean, badmouth this company. The interview process was horrible. The hiring manager doesn't know anything, blah, 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 blah. So they want you to speak to someone that loves the company, that's going to be an advocate for the company, because it is essentially a sales call. But the questions that you ask really need to come down to what's important to you. If remote work is important to you, if flexibility is important to you, if career progression is important to you, asking the questions that get you the answers to the company's perspective on those things is critically important, right? And just, you know, let's just be honest, it's a good time to be a Black woman in tech, and especially in cybersecurity, because folks are looking for us. The problem we have, however, is that some companies see this as a mission, like it's something that needs to be seen through and followed up on and nurtured. Some organizations see this as a trend. It's just what companies are doing right now. So you have all these plays to attract talent, but the culture isn't ready for us because they haven't done enough work to make sure they can retain that talent. So doing your homework on demographics, like how much diversity is there in leadership and things like that before you even get to that meeting, to drum up any follow-up questions that you might have to your research and bring that up. Let them know, yo, I checked you out and I got questions. I want to work here, but I want to make sure I'm going to want to stay here. Then that will tell them right away, hey, this is someone that's not just looking for a job. This is someone that's looking for a career and they want to grow. And that's a way of articulating that without actually coming out and saying it, because it's expensive to recruit. It's expensive to hire. Hiring managers really, really want to talk to someone that's going to get it right. When I get on a call to interviews to someone, I'm like, oh my God, please let this be the person. I can't sit through another interview. This is getting exhausting. This is tiring. Just let this person be the one. I want to hire somebody. And interviewers are like, oh my God, I really hope I get all this right. And I think interviewers don't really understand the power that they have. But it does really come down to culturally and in terms of fit, what matters to you. You might be at a point in your career that you don't care about working 60 hours a week because you just want to learn all the things, because your plan is to work at this company for 2 to 3 years, take all your skills and move on to the next one. Or you might be like, well, I got a family, right? I need something steady. I can't be working all these hours. And it's okay if I don't get exposure to a lot of things. I just really need stability right now. So those questions really come from what matters to you. The key is not being afraid to ask the questions that are going to get you the answers that you need to make sure you're going to be comfortable where you go. It's okay to turn a job down. It's okay to not be a fit. You don't want to accept something somewhere where you're not going to be successful, and you do matter. I don't care if it's your first job or your 15th job in cybersecurity, you matter. It's got to be a fit for you too.
Thank you. And Eva, let's get to your question. So her question is, what are your thoughts of the future of cloud security?
As far as like a career path?
She says, as it relates to healthcare cloud.
Oh, yeah. So coming from a healthcare background, I can assure you healthcare organizations are not very secure at all. And many reasons for that would probably eat up, the remaining time of the call. But at a very high level, there's a lot of outdated, antiquated systems that they're using, software systems and software applications for a lot of the things. And the challenge they have is that a lot of those companies they purchase from are out of business. So the code hasn't been updated or anything like that. So one particular example is an organization I worked with where they were running Windows 2000 server. They also had like a Windows 1995 machine on the network, which probably makes Tia cringe. It made me cringe. And when they tried to migrate to the cloud, they went to Azure Cloud to Microsoft, and Microsoft was like, well, you've got to update all your servers. We only accept, I think back at the time it was like 2012 or something, that's backwards compatible. And so they're like, well, you got to upgrade before you can even get in the cloud, even before you can even migrate anything to the public cloud. We can't work with Windows 2000. And so you're going to see a lot of that out there. So yes, there's actually a really good, especially with a healthcare background, it looks like you're an EMT and pharmacy tech. Yeah. So being a clinician gives you a lot of strength in healthcare cyber, a lot of strength, because you know how to talk to other clinicians, the language. The challenge a lot of people in tech have is they come from a technical background, they go into the healthcare organization, they try to do training or anything. Nobody cares because, well, you're not a nurse, you don't know. But me having a background as a nurse, I was able to say, well, okay, look, if you don't do this thing, if you click on this email and do this and click this document open and ransomware hits, Do you like going to lunch? Do you like having a lunch break? Oh yeah. Well, guess what? You don't get a lunch break because you're busy trying to treat patients on paper charting. Oh, do you like being able to have your charting where you don't jeopardize your nursing license? Oh yeah, I like that. Well, guess what? If you share your credentials with someone else and they mess up your note, guess where the state's coming? They're not coming for them. They're coming for you. And they're going to take your license while they investigate. Oh no, that's crazy. And it's amazing. And I'll just share a quick story here on this and the impact of being a clinician and being able to translate is I got people so paranoid at one company, all these nurses, that when a new CEO took over, a new company purchased them, a new CEO came, and they sent out an email saying, hey, the CEO would like to get your feedback, a survey, whatever. Everyone thought it was a phishing email. I literally got over 400 phone calls, almost 1,000 emails from nurses saying, I don't want to click this until you tell me it's okay. I don't want to take, they thought it was a phishing email. It was actually a legit email. So there's big impact in being able to translate that. So Eva, yes, cloud is a huge need in healthcare, especially cloud security, cloud architect. You'll start as a cloud architect. There's a huge need, and having your background as a clinician, that's probably your sweet spot right there in the cyber world, is going cloud architect, working in healthcare and handling the security for that. I mean, literally the sky's the limit on what you'll make in that area, having that specialty. So that's my thoughts on that one.
I guess I'll chime in on the cloud piece in general from an emerging technologies perspective. It's really important to, I'll just say, I don't know what made me do market research when I was figuring out what I wanted to specialize in, but that's really what it all comes down to, right? Because all vendors shift their capabilities toward where the market is going. Like AWS, Azure, all those folks, it comes down to, well, what does the market need right now? What is the market going? Where's the market going? What is the market going to need? So staying ahead of that is critically important, because what you don't want to do is say, oh, I want to be a pen tester, for example. And then you go and you invest in all these things around being a pen tester, but you didn't look at the market that tells us, well, pen testing might be becoming more of a commodity. It's gonna become automated, and this skill over here is actually where the industry is going to be going from a people perspective. So it's critically important when you invest in, I want to do this thing, that you understand the sustainability of that type of role, and that's sustainability for yourself and for the industry. Is this role something that I'm going to want to do for years and years and years and years? Or is the understanding that I'm just going to do it for a couple of years because it's going to propel me forward to do this other thing that I want to do? But from an industry perspective, am I going to invest in this type of role for the long term, and it's going to be dead in 2 years? AI is going to take it over, or organizations aren't going to need it anymore. When it comes to cloud, that's a sure bet, right? For sure. Cloud is a sure bet. You think about the pandemic and organizations that were digitally transforming and migrating to cloud and considering a cloud transformation. Everyone tossed their stuff into the cloud because security didn't matter anymore, because it was all about business continuity and corporate sustainability. What we're going to find is a lot of these organizations where their help desk admin became their network admin, became their cloud admin, became their security admin, is there's going to be a lot of misconfigurations in the cloud. Attackers are already taking advantage of these things. And so not only experts in cloud architecture, infrastructure, cloud security experts are going to become, just in ultimate demand, because a lot of organizations just put their stuff in the cloud because they needed to survive, and security was an afterthought. So I do think cloud is a sure bet. IoT, critical infrastructure, these are conversations that we're constantly having. The challenge we have in this industry is that it's changing every day. So you can't really sit still long enough to gather enough data to solve the problem that you don't know you're going to see tomorrow, because it doesn't look like it did yesterday. So now we're trying to solve for things like IoT and industrial control systems. We don't have a data set because these environments typically aren't connected out to the internet, so attackers can't even get to them. So emerging technologies like that, and you think about AI, right, and the security implications of AI. So if AI does something bad legally, who's held accountable? AI isn't a real entity. So the cloud thing just made me think about emerging technologies. And so you have to figure out if you're the type of person that wants to be where everyone is, or where everyone is going, and what you're comfortable with. I saw the question, like, should I go AWS or GCP? I think the answer to that question is, do you want to be where everyone is, which is AWS? That means there's a whole lot of opportunity. Or do you want to go to GCP? Like, GCP hasn't really dominated the market yet, but that also means that expertise in GCP isn't as saturated as it is in AWS. So that's the kind of mindset that you need to have when you're deciding where you want to go, right? Do you want to go where the industry is, or do you want to go where the industry is going? I am of the belief that I want to be where everyone's going, so I can turn around and be like, yeah, this is what you need to be thinking about. You should have done this 6 months ago, but that's okay. I'm here. I got you. But there are the other side of that is just being where the industry is and learning, and that's fine too. But deciding where you want to be in that can help inform your decisions as well.
Thank you, Tia, for that. So as these individuals are trying to transition into cybersecurity, can you guys speak on the value of mentorship?
Good
and then you could tie in
mentorship.
any resource.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was saying, yeah, good mentorship. Yeah.
I mean, I'll start. I think the value that you get out of a mentor, a good mentor, right? Someone that's not just going to tell you all the things that work for them and really is invested in understanding where it is that you're trying to go and pushing you past yourself to think about things that you haven't thought about. Getting value out of those relationships really comes down to being a good mentee. A mentor can only give you as much value as you enable them to give. So I've been in great mentorship relationships where someone comes in, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. I don't really know how I should pursue this or pursue that. And we can work through things. And the mentorship relationship is incredibly valuable. But I've also had folks show up and say, hey, I want to do cyber, help. And I'm like, I really don't know what to do for you, right? So understanding yourself, understanding your why, doing your own research. Mentors are there to guide you and to push you and to make you aware of the things that might be available to you on the path that you're already going down that you might not be thinking about. But I think a big misconception about mentors is that everything gets laid out for you. And that's not the case at all. If you're entering into a mentor relationship and you expect a mentor to just tell you all the things to do, and you're not going to have to do any research on your own, that's going to be a useless relationship. So.
No, I mean, I concur with what Tia just said. I think there's got to be ownership on both ends of the table. And a good mentor is not going to just spoon feed you things. You know, they'll give some guidance and they're going to ask you a lot of questions to make you think about, as Tia mentioned, think about things that you hadn't thought of yet. Typically speaking, for the people that I mentor, and I don't mentor as many anymore because I just don't have the time, unfortunately. But where I do mentor at, I typically will, if they haven't come to me and said, I want to do this thing, as an example, if they don't know what career they want to start with, then guess what? They're going to places like CyberSN, they're going to take some free courses and then they can come back to me. Some people put in the work and they come back to me. There's been several people, especially very recently, that have put in the work, that have figured out what they want to do. And because they put in the work and they take action, I'm comfortable, even if I don't know them personally, making a recommendation for them. And it's led to a lot of jobs where people were applying for a year, couldn't get anything, reached out, got mentored, put in the work themselves, did the things I told them to do or I suggested for them to do. And at the end of the day, I didn't hear anything from them for weeks. I thought, hopefully everything is all right. And then they'd reach out and said, oh, I got a job. I got my first job because you tagged me on a post for this person. They reached out and I've been going through the interview process and I just got the offer and, oh my gosh, it's double what I made in my previous job. And, just great stories like that. Right. But I've also mentored other people or tried to mentor other people that do nothing, right? They come, like Tia mentioned, I want to be cybersecurity. Okay, well, where? I don't know. Tell me. Let's get on a call. Like, well, no, until you put in some work on your end, because here's the thing, right? All of us are busy, including everyone on this call that even trying to get into the industry. Everyone's busy, right? We have families, friends, other things we're working on. For us to take out the time, you have to respect someone else's time, right? Everyone here showed up to this session. You're respecting the time of everyone on the session. And, because you're not Zoom bombing us, thankfully, you're not Zoom bombing us. But I've had that happen before. But, you be respectful of other people's times. Understand that the people you're looking up to potentially in the industry that you're looking for mentorship from, they have other things going on besides you, right? Their world does not revolve around you, just like your world doesn't revolve around them, right? So understand that it's a relationship. And everyone needs to do their part. And if you don't do their part, don't be surprised that you don't hear anything or that person doesn't help you, because you have to take some ownership for your own life, your own career. As a mentor, as like Tia mentioned, we're here to guide you. We're not here to spoon feed you and make phone calls on your behalf and go apply for jobs for you and rewrite your resume. And guess what? I've got a famous block party. If you want an invitation, the best way to do that, to get an invitation to that block party, is tell me to write your resume for you and tell me to do this, tell me to do that. I'll gladly add you to that block party. I'll never talk to you again because you're on the block party, but I'm happy to add you to that. So just understand that, be respectful. You just have to understand that it's a two-way relationship, like anything in life. If you're dating somebody, hopefully you don't expect them to do like bend over backwards and all these things while you're doing nothing, right? I mean, that's Dusty mentality. We won't go down that path, but it's a two-way relationship. Everyone has to give and take. And if you put in the work, the right mentors, the good mentors, will go out of their way to continue mentoring you, helping you, introducing you to people. And that's really going to propel you. If you don't put in any work, if you just tell people, I want a cybersecurity job, help me, don't be surprised when you hear nothing and you just hear crickets. So just take some ownership of your own life, because it's not my life. I'm not going to take ownership for you. Neither is Tia or anyone else on the call. You have to take ownership over your own life.
And mentorship can lead to sponsorship, right? I don't know that we talk enough about the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. So I went through the first 18 years of my career without either. So I made a lot of mistakes, missed a lot of opportunities, wasted a lot of money. But I got a mentor that turned into a sponsor. And fortunately for me, it actually happens to be the CEO of the company that I currently work for. And so the difference between a mentor is that a mentor will have those coaching discussions with you and guide you and get you to think and do those things. But a sponsor will actually open doors for you. They will put their name out there for you and introduce you to people and vouch for you. And so if you really put in the work with a mentor and you're very specific and you're able to somehow get your skills to come across and the value that you're able to drive in a business, all of a sudden your mentor will say, oh, I can introduce you to someone and I can open this door for you. And oh my gosh, like you're going to crush it in this industry. You just need to be introduced to the right people and I can do that for you. And I find myself in that position now. I really wasn't aware of, and I mean, because I'm just maybe oblivious or just too humble. I don't know, but Ken's probably the same way. But I think if Ken and I were to say, you should talk to this person, anyone on LinkedIn will say, yeah, I'll talk to them. And I didn't realize that until I pinged someone that had a job opening one day and said, hey, I got somebody that I think you should talk to. And they replied to me and said, well, I'll talk to anyone that you recommend. I was like, holy cow, I can open doors for people. But like Uncle Ben says in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So if I run around opening the door for everybody, then that dilutes the value of the doors that I can open for people that actually drive value, right? So, build those relationships, be intent, have meaningful discussions, and you might find yourself in a position where you have a sponsor where you thought you actually just had a mentor.
Yeah, and just a real quick piggyback off that, you can literally go from unemployed today to a job offer tomorrow, because I've had people that I guess sponsored. I call it mentoring, but I guess people I've sponsored. I've made a phone call or sent a text message, and they are literally getting a job offer that next day. Sometimes the same day. I actually had one young woman that had a job offer that same day. I put her in touch with the owner of the company. So it can happen quickly. Be prepared for that. Don't be scared to accept the job offer if it is the right fit. It can happen suddenly, and that's usually from my experience, how things happen. It's not usually. In my own experience, it's just my experience. I've never had a situation where like I've been able to prepare perfectly and the birds are chirping in the background and everything's perfect, and it's never happened. It's always been, here's the opportunity, I take it, and then I'm able to move forward from there, right? So just understand that the opportunity may come quickly, and if you don't take it, somebody else will. So you have to be prepared in those situations if you are asking for someone to put themselves on the line for you. That, to Tia's point, if you keep turning down things that I put you in front of people and you keep turning down job offers, yeah, maybe they're all not the right fit, but come on. If I've put it in front of 50 people, 50 jobs aren't the right one, what are you looking for at this point, right? Are you looking for some perfect job? There's none out there. The only perfect job you have is own your own company. And then you can control whatever your job title is, you can control what you do, all those things. But so that's my thoughts on that. Just be prepared, honestly, for it to happen very, very quickly when you get in those situations.
Thank you. I see you. Rayshawn says, trust it, don't downplay the sponsorship connection. I love that. Amazing. So just to bring it all in, we got about 5 more minutes left. What resources or some of your favorite educational blogs, people, meetups, events would you guys recommend?
So there's like a million, but so I always focus on, again, free low cost resources first. Some things you do need to invest in because they are worth the money. But when you're just starting out, free low cost resources, cloud stuff. So I think Antoni Savalas maybe is his name. I'm probably getting that totally wrong. He has Google Cloud training, very low cost, it's like, I don't know, $30 or something, very economical for starting out. Adrian Cantrell has, so focusing on cloud for a second here, Adrian Cantrell has some very low cost AWS cloud training. So I'm not affiliated with them, by the way. I know their stuff's good because I've bought it for the people I've mentored before, and they've gone through it. So there's some low cost ones. Also on Udemy has a lot of low cost and free courses on there. SANS has SANS.org. Just go there. They have a lot of free courses. There's the Wild West Hacking Fest. I can't think of the name of the company that sponsors that or basically hosts that, but they have a lot of, they call them like pay as you can or pay as you or whatever they call it. Basically, if you can pay $1, you can pay $1 and get training sessions and things like that.
Is that Black Hills, Ken?
I think it's John's company. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, Black Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also on LinkedIn, look at Cyber Supply Drop. They do a lot of giveaways for vouchers for certifications. Try Hack Me is another site that's $10 a month that a lot of people use to learn very, very basic cyber things. Some content's good, some content, but it's low cost, so you kind of pay what you get. But a lot of it's good content out there that people contribute. I mean, Hack the Box. It really just honestly, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to go into risk, OCEG, I think is the name of it, OCEG.org. They have, I think it's for $300 or $400, but they have a couple of they have a GRC professional and a auditing cert, but for like $300 or $400 flat fee, you can get basically 2 certs, voucher cost, as well as the training, all for like one price, right? I mean, if you're going to go into risk, you can get those certs if you want to get certs for that. Those are low cost ones, but there's just so much out there. It's really, I'd say the best way for anyone on this call, just reach out to TRI on LinkedIn. Let us know what you want to do. Then we can point you in the right direction. Because otherwise you're going to go look at all these things, you get overwhelmed. Don't do that. Like, please pause. And if you don't know what you want to do, figure that out first, then kind of reach out to us, and we, us or anyone can give you some direction on where to go.
Yeah, and I mean, just to chime in on that, to my earlier point of coming into cybersecurity and want to secure the things, but what the hell are the things? It is really, if you want to be a technical practitioner, right? Because that's not necessary, but that is, if that's a path you're going down, it makes sense to spend some time understanding networking. If you're going to secure data, you need to understand how data moves. If you're worried about securing endpoints, you need to understand operating systems. So I think laying a solid foundation for yourself comes down to spinning up tools that allow you to play with these things, because, when you do labs, you go on Udemy, things like that, it's a controlled environment. And I find that I learn the most when things don't work the way that they're supposed to, right? So spin up a virtual environment, go download VirtualBox, that's free. You can get a Linux distribution. That way you're installing an operating system. You can mess around with command line, right? Like Bash Shell is the default for Linux. Learn some things there. Do some basic networking. pfSense is a free open source firewall, so you can do things like network segmentation and things like that. But understanding just the foundations of all the things that security is actually layered on top of is critically important to being successful in the industry.
Perfect. This was just awesome. So before I give Tia and Ken their last minute thoughts on tonight, we encourage you guys to connect, donate, and partner with us. We have all of our handles up here: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also visit us on the web at www.blackgirlsincyber.com. I'm going to ask Tia for any last minute thoughts or encouragement for anybody that's trying to get into the cybersecurity field.
That's my favorite question. What do you recommend to people or women looking to get in cybersecurity? And it's very easy. Do it. There's a lot of people in this industry in very high positions making critical decisions that do not know what the hell they're doing. I talk to CISOs all the time that make me want to fire not them. I want to fire their boss. I want to fire whoever hired them. So don't sell yourself short just because some piece of paper says that you have to have all these things. There's something that you can bring to this industry. Adversaries don't have all this gatekeeping. They're incredibly diverse and they're kicking our asses right now. So put your flag in the ground, stake your claim, and get it together and get yourself started, because you can make it if you're passionate about it.
And Ken the bot.
So I'll leave everyone with two pieces of advice. Number one, you have everything you need within you already. And you've had that since you've been born. You've had that through life experiences. So when you are looking at a cyber career, or any career for that matter, or running a business, everything you need is within you already. You just need to learn how to tap into that if you don't know how already, right? So get quiet, focus on yourself. You know, it's okay to be selfish, right? It's okay to be selfish. You have to focus on you sometimes. The other thing I'll mention here is a quote from one of my early mentors. And basically the quote is, it's a short quote, by the way, be an action taker and not an action talker. Be an action taker and not an action talker. So many people, especially, oh my goodness, on social media, and Tia and I we could go for hours on this. Oh, so many people talk a big game, right? They're going to do this, they're going to do that. Look at me, I'm going to do this, because they want the attention. Don't be like them. The people that are actually taking action are the people you're not usually hearing about. There's a lot of charlatans in the cyber industry that are very popular on social media. They're talking about all these issues. We need more people. We need to do this. We need to do that. But if you follow them and you look at their posts, everyone's posting like the same thing, but none of them are taking action. None of them are doing anything about it, because they just want likes, shares. They'll buy my course, buy my book. None of them are doing anything about it, right? So I encourage you, not just in your career, but just in life in general, be an action taker and not an action talker. Don't talk a big game, do it. Just go out there and actually do it. Because the more you do it, the faster you're going to get to wherever you want to go in life. So those are my final thoughts.
Blown away. Wow, this was just amazing. Thank you so much, Ken and Tia, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Stay connected. Go to www.blackgirlsincyber.com for more events. Thank you and have a good night.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.